All right, let's dive into something that can get really personal really fast. We're going to talk about that knot in your stomach you might feel when you start to question something you've believed for a long, long time. It's not just about being right or wrong. It's about that scary thought. If I stop believing this, who am I? I mean, just listen to that. This came directly from a therapy session, and it is so raw. It just perfectly captures that deep fear that if one of our foundational beliefs starts to shake, our whole sense of self is going to come crashing down with it. So why is that? Why does just being curious feel so risky, like you're standing on the edge of a cliff? That's the big question we're going to unpack today. And if you've ever felt that anxiety, I just want you to know that's a completely normal response, and we're going to figure out why together. Okay, so this fear, it usually comes from a really deep and often unconscious mix-up. It's a place where we've accidentally tangled up what we think with who we fundamentally are. Does any of this sound familiar, that little voice in your head? If I'm wrong about this, I am wrong. This is what it feels like when a belief gets fused to our identity. And the source material makes a really important point here. These feelings, they are powerful, powerful signals that something needs our attention. But, and this is the key, they are signals, not necessarily truths. So if that's the problem, how do we find our way out? Well, it all starts with this one core idea, a really foundational shift in how we see things. The idea that your beliefs and your identity are actually two totally separate things. Let's break this down. A belief, that's a thought. It's an idea you learned. It lives in your head, in language. And guess what? It can change. But your identity, that's different. That's your embodied sense of self. It's how you experience being you. It lives in your body, in your nervous system, and it changes much, much more slowly. And I love this metaphor because it makes it so clear. You can try on different ideas, right? You can change your mental wardrobe. You can even get rid of beliefs that just don't fit anymore. And you can do all of that without changing the fundamental person you are underneath. It's not your skin. Now, okay, the source material gives this experience a very specific, kind of complex clinical name. Don't worry about pronouncing it. The important thing here is that giving it a name shows us that this isn't some personal failure on our part. It's a known psychological pattern. It's an entanglement that, with care, can be gently unwoven. So now that we've kind of defined the problem, let's talk about the solution. How do we actually do this? This next part is all about a practical, therapeutic tool that's designed to create that safe space between what you believe and who you are. Look closely at these steps. This isn't about arguing with yourself or forcing a change. It's about creating safety first. Notice step 1 isn't challenge the belief. No, it's ground yourself in your body. It's about protecting your identity. And then, and only then, reframing that fear not as a sign you're bad, but as a totally normal reaction to losing a sense of certainty. This chart, this is really the heart of the tool. It draws a super clear line. Beliefs are thoughts, ideas that help us make sense of the world. But practices, those are the things we do, our actions, our habits, things like kindness, honesty, compassion. And here's the beautiful part. Our practices, which are often way closer to our core identity, can stay totally stable even when our beliefs are shifting all over the place. Now, this whole framework becomes especially powerful when you apply it to healing from high-control or fear-based environments, places where, a lot of the time, that fusion of belief and identity was actually created on purpose. Just look at the shift here. This is so practical and so powerful. It's about swapping out language that creates shame and fear for language that gives you back your own sense of agency and safety. Think about it. Going from doubt is dangerous to curiosity is protective is a huge act of reclaiming yourself. This right here is such a key insight from the source material. It separates the idea itself from the emotional weapon it might have become. This reframe lets a person look at their own history without having to make the belief itself the bad guy. Instead, you can focus on the fear that was attached to it, because that's what did the damage. And this is the bottom line, really. You wouldn't try to inspect a shaky building during an earthquake, right? It's the same idea. You can't safely explore a shaky belief system when your own nervous system is flooded with fear. This work is always about finding stability and safety first. So following this path isn't just a coping mechanism. It's actually pointing toward a much deeper shift in philosophy, a move away from defining ourselves by what we think and moving toward defining ourselves by how we actually live. Now, this chart is just neutrally comparing two different ways to frame these big ideas. The source isn't saying one is right and one is wrong, not at all. It's just highlighting the different psychological effects. A model where doubt is seen as a threat, that can create a lot of shame. A model where doubt is just seen as neutral data, well, that creates a safe space to explore. And this brings us to this final, just beautiful metaphor. Our practices, our ethics, our kindness, our integrity, that's the steady fuel for our inner flame, for our identity. Our beliefs, they can be seen as the beautiful, changing, and sometimes even optional decorations around that flame. So this brings us to the big takeaway. In this way of looking at things, you don't have to hold a specific belief to live a good, meaningful life. But how we act, how we treat ourselves, how we treat other people, that's where our character, our stability is really built. And above all else, your core self, your experience of being you, is worthy of protection. It's worthy of care, no matter what your mind happens to be thinking today. So we'll leave you with the same question that's used in these therapeutic settings. It's not what's wrong with me or what do I need to fix. It's a much gentler, much more powerful question. What part of me deserves protection right now? It's a really good question to carry with you. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. I really hope it gave you maybe a little bit more clarity and a little more safety for your own journey. We'll see you next time.